Welcome to your ultimate pit stop, Piston Pundit, where we break down the biggest stories in defense and strategy. Mark Carney's rise to Canada's top office is already shaking things up. His rejection of U.S. annexation and reconsideration of Canada's $19 billion F-35 deal signals a dramatic shift toward European partnerships. Carney's hardline stance on American influence could redefine Canada's military strategy and global alliances. Why is Canada making this bold move, and how could it reshape NATO and global power dynamics? Buckle up. We're diving into the key developments driving this major geopolitical shift. Carney's bold stance against U.S. influence. Mark Carney isn't easing into his new role. He's coming in hot. After being sworn in on March 14th, Carney laid down the law regarding Canada's relationship with the United States. His statement, "We will never ever in any way, shape, or form be part of the United States," left zero room for ambiguity. This wasn't just a diplomatic snub. It was a direct response to U.S. Senator Marco Rubio's suggestion that Canada would be better off as America's 51st state. Carney didn't mince words, calling the notion absurd. This hardline stance reflects a growing sentiment among Canadians who view their political identity as distinctly separate from the U.S. While Canada and the U.S. have long shared close trade, defense, and cultural ties, Carney's words signal a deliberate shift toward reinforcing Canada's sovereignty. And it's not just about national pride, it's about strategy. Carney warned that the U.S. covets our resources, water, land, and the nation itself. That's not the language of mild diplomacy. That's a full-throttle defense of Canadian independence. He made it clear that any annexation attempt would obliterate our way of life. That kind of rhetoric suggests Carney views the current geopolitical climate as a threat to Canada's autonomy. But Carney's push for sovereignty isn't just political, it's also influencing Canada's military strategy. Canada's F-35 deal breakdown, a strategic pivot. Canada's decision to reconsider its $19 billion contract for 88 F-35 stealth fighters marks a significant shift in military strategy. Defense Minister Bill Blair's announcement caught many off guard, especially since Canada had already committed funds for the first 16 jets, scheduled for delivery next year. The F-35 program has always been controversial. Despite its advanced stealth and avionics, the aircraft's high costs and complex maintenance have drawn criticism globally. Canada's hesitation reflects a broader shift within NATO. Portugal recently backed out of its F-35 plans, citing Trump's unpredictable foreign policy and U.S.-imposed operational restrictions. Blair suggested Canada may pivot toward European-made jets, with Sweden's Saab JAS-39 Gripen emerging as a leading contender. The Gripen's Mach 2 speed and ability to operate from rough airstrips make it an appealing alternative. More importantly, Saab has proposed building the Gripen in Canada, which would create domestic jobs, transfer key technologies, and ensure NATO compatibility. This shift signals Canada's push for greater strategic independence. Relying on U.S.-controlled defense systems comes with political and operational strings attached. Moving toward European models would diversify Canada's defense partnerships and reduce dependence on a single supplier. But shifting to European defense suppliers isn't just about military flexibility. It's part of a larger strategic realignment with Europe. Before we delve deeper, do us a favor and smash that like and subscribe button. This helps us reach more auto enthusiasts just like you. Now let's shift gears and steer towards our next point. Canada eyes European defense partnerships. Canada's growing interest in European defense partnerships isn't happening in isolation. It's part of a broader realignment in global military strategy. Over the past few years, Europe has dramatically increased its defense spending. Between 2021 and 2024, EU member states boosted their defense budgets by over 30%, hitting nearly €326 billion, about 1.9% of the EU's GDP. European defense giants are thriving. Rheinmetall, Europe's largest ammunition manufacturer, reported record profits last year and expects up to 30% growth in the coming year. The European Commission's Rearm Europe initiative is also fueling this growth, with up to €800 billion earmarked for joint defense projects and increased production capacity. Canada's potential pivot toward European suppliers is already drawing interest from major players. In addition to Saab's Gripen, France's Dassault Rafale, and Germany's Eurofighter Typhoon are being pitched as alternatives to the F-35. A shift toward European platforms would give Canada greater bargaining power and flexibility, something that's hard to achieve under the tightly controlled F-35 program. But strengthening military ties with Europe has broader economic implications for Canada as well. Canada's defense strategy and economic impact. Canada's defense industry is a key pillar of the national economy, contributing over $9.6 billion to the GDP and supporting around 81,200 jobs as of 2022. Its strategic importance extends beyond security. It's a major driver of domestic employment and technological growth. To strengthen this sector, the government introduced a defense procurement strategy aimed at equipping the Canadian Armed Forces, CAF, and the Coast Guard efficiently, while stimulating domestic job creation. Streamlining procurement processes has been central to improving delivery times and supporting Canadian industry. In April 2024, the government announced the Our North, Strong and Free initiative, allocating $10.2 billion over 20 years to modernize national defense infrastructure and prepare the CAF for evolving security challenges. An additional $9.5 billion will be used to build a strategic reserve of ammunition and increase domestic production of artillery shells, boosting self-reliance and reducing reliance on foreign suppliers. But Canada's shift toward European suppliers is also reshaping its geopolitical alliances. Geopolitical fallout and strategic implications. Canada's reconsideration of the F-35 deal carries major geopolitical weight, signaling a broader shift among NATO allies. Growing distrust over U.S. foreign policy, particularly under Trump's unpredictable leadership, is pushing some nations to rethink their defense strategies. This raises questions about NATO's cohesion and the future balance of power within the alliance. Portugal's recent decision to abandon its F-35 plans underscores this trend. Portuguese Defense Minister Nuno Melo cited concerns over relying on American-made jets, warning that U.S. operational restrictions could compromise national security. Portugal is now looking at European alternatives, reflecting a growing desire for defense autonomy among NATO members. Canada's potential shift toward European suppliers like Saab and Dassault could accelerate this trend. Moving away from US-based systems might reduce NATO's interoperability, but would also give member states greater strategic flexibility. For European defense manufacturers, this presents a significant opportunity. And this brings us to the big question: what's next for Canada's defense strategy? Verdict: a new era for Canada's military strategy. Scrapping the F-35 deal isn't just about saving money, it's about asserting sovereignty and strategic independence. Carney's firm rejection of U.S. annexation underscores a growing desire to strengthen Canada's autonomy. Aligning with European defense manufacturers like Saab and Dassault reflects a calculated move toward diversifying military partnerships and reducing reliance on American defense infrastructure. But this decision isn't without risks. Could abandoning the F-35 strain Canada's position within NATO? Will Trump's unpredictable foreign policy push more allies toward European solutions? Canada's next moves will be critical in determining whether this is a short-term tactical adjustment or the start of a major strategic realignment. So what do you think? Should Canada ditch the F-35 and go all in with European defense solutions, or stick with the original plan? Share your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear your take. And remember, if you want to stay on top of the biggest stories in defense and global strategy, make sure to subscribe to Piston Pundit, your ultimate pit stop for vehicle updates and geopolitical insights. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.